The reason why I'm buying Beam instead of Bitcoin is very simple. It's because I believe that its room for growth feels a lot more dynamic as of right now, even though nothing I say is financial advice nor a guarantee. Now, what do I mean by dynamic? Here's the thing. If Beam were to go to the price of $1, that right there is around a 43x from here. And by the way, market cap wouldn't be crazy at all at that point, in my opinion, because considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $50 billion. So it's not that insane. At least that's the way to take a look at it. Now, on the flip side, if let's say Bitcoin were to do a 43x from here, the price would be around $4 million at that point, right? And considering current circulating supply, market cap would be nearly $81 trillion. So if you think about that, what is more logical to do over a 40x? I'm not saying which one is safer. I'm not saying which one has more fans, which one has more hype. Let's see purely from a hypothetical upside standpoint of view, which is better? I think hands down, it's something like Beam, at least personally for me. Even though nothing I say again is financial advice nor a guarantee, the way I take a look at it is that Beam, not only is the room for growth a lot better, but at the same time, I think it's a lot more dynamic in terms of the use case. Because if you actually take a look at this, right, Bitcoin doesn't seem that dynamic in that aspect as well. For instance, it's primarily just known as a store of value. Nothing wrong with that. But then the use case really isn't that great. There are Bitcoin layer 2s out there that kind of gives it, potentially new use cases, but still it's not that great. And people like to say, oh, Bitcoin is so rare. You got to own Bitcoin, all this. But I disagree with that because I would argue that there are many projects out there that are more rare than Bitcoin. If let's say we're talking purely just in terms of maximum supply, let's take a look at Quant, for instance. I'm very bullish on Quant. The maximum supply of Quant is around 14.6 to around 14.8 million. Now, this is depending on the site or exchange, but still, some people may think that it's not rare. So this actually is very subjective, but let me just talk about this nonetheless, right? Because you take a look at, even if let's say we remove 5 million Bitcoin, let's say we just threw it out or something like that, right? So let's say the maximum supply of Bitcoin becomes like 16 million. For whatever reason, let's say that is the case just for the purpose of this example. That is still not even the maximum supply of Quant. Can you just imagine that? So when people like to say Bitcoin is rare, well, Quant is more rare, but there's also something that's even more rare. So it's just like an endless thing. It's just because everyone keeps thinking, oh, wow, look at this meme coin. The supply is like a gajillion or something insane like that, right? That means Bitcoin is rare. Well, there's many others out there that are more rare. So this is very subjective. And again, the use case isn't that dynamic. I am not arguing that Bitcoin is not a positive factor for the crypto space because it is. It is very positive. The Bitcoin ETF, the heights in which Bitcoin is reaching as of right now, it's all very positive. But I personally speaking would rather acquire something like Beam instead of Bitcoin, especially as of right now, because I think the use case and also the hypothetical upside is just much more dynamic. Not to mention, right, when you take a look at Beam, what is it, right? It's an open source blockchain that is specialized for gaming. Gaming may be a market that's not really in the up and up, so to speak, right? But then if you actually take a look at it, the blockchain gaming market is predicted to be worth over $300 billion by 2030, according to Grandview Research. So it's not a bad market in my opinion. Not to mention as well, one of the main components of Beam is actually called the Beam SDK. Now, SDK stands for Software Development Kit. But even besides that point, this allegedly allows game developers to choose from a variety of tools that can be used to feel and structure their in-game blockchain elements. So I like that. Not to mention the Beam ecosystem is very amazing in a sense that it's very diverse. You take a look at, there's something called Beam Swap, which is a decentralized exchange. I like that. Not to mention, you take a look at the Beam Layer 0 bridge, which I think is a good addition. Now, this right here is a bridging solution to transfer tokens between Beam and other blockchains. So yeah, I like that. Not to mention, there's something called Beam OS, a portal for exploring tools and apps on the chain. There's also Beam Block Explorer, a tracking platform for all Beam transactions and statistics. And last but not least, there is something called Sphere. Now, you may be thinking, okay, isn't that what I see in Las Vegas? Well, that's also called Sphere, but this one is called Sphere as well, but it's actually an NFT marketplace. But yeah, if you actually take a look at it, it's kind of coincidental, right? If you take a look at the Sphere, it's like this globe design, and you take a look at the logo of Beam, it looks kind of like the sphere, really, if you think about it from like afar in terms of like 2D, if that makes sense. And then they have an NFT marketplace called Sphere. But yeah, besides that point, I'm just rambling here. But besides, again, that point, you take a look at Beam, what created it, right? What launched it, quite essentially? That's something called the Merit Circle DAO. Now, you may be thinking, okay, what is this nonsense? When you take a look at people oftentimes like to say that decentralization is needed. What is more decentralized than a DAO? I just don't know at this point, because I think it's pretty much as decentralized as it gets. And if you take a look at a DAO, what does it stand for? Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And this specifically, right, when we take a look at it, is a entity that is designed to be fully autonomous without a central point of control. So I like that. Not to mention as well, the rules of a DAO are established by a core team of committee members and is executed through smart contracts. And to obtain voting power or membership in a DAO, users are typically required to own its governance token. And in this case, anyone who holds Beam can vote. So yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. So anyway, take a look at it. I think Beam is amazing. Merit Circle DAO, that's a good addition, I would say, because it does give a very decentralized aspect to Beam. And not to mention, again, Beam reaching the price of $1, considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $50 billion. It's not too much to ask for. You've seen Dogecoin reach over $80 billion in market cap. And what's so good about that? I get it has a lot of fans, great exposure, but still, Beam can't reach over $30 billion less than that during a fully fledged bull run. I just don't see why not. You take a look at, let's say, around 6 months to 10 months from right now, things could be a totally different story. I think the altcoin season is just getting started. I think Bitcoin is just getting started. Now, I wouldn't acquire Bitcoin again, because I think that even if, let's say, Bitcoin goes to the price of $200,000, what is that from right now? A little bit over 2x from here? Caralho. Porra. What is gonna, come off that? I just don't know, right? Now, again, I'm not trashing Bitcoin. Bitcoin reaching $200,000, let's say, is going to be so great for Beam and a bunch of other altcoins. But I don't want to get into that, right? I'd much rather get into something else that could grow along with the ride, but in a much better way in terms of percentage increase. Now, some people may be arguing, okay, why aren't you into microcaps then? They have the best upside, people may argue. And I do agree with that in a sense, because, they could grow a lot. They could do 1000x. You just never know. But then the risk is very high. I am not in the world of cryptocurrencies to look for a 1000x, but I'm not looking for like a 3 or 2x either, if that makes sense. I'm looking for something a little bit in between, which I think is something like Beam, because again, over a 40x, I think is already very great personally for me, in my opinion. And Beam, again, going to the price of $1 is over a 40x from here. So yeah, it's not bad for me, especially when you consider how there's over 600 million crypto owners as of right now, according to Crypto.com research. That's more than ever before in history. I just don't see why this bull run would be bad. I think if anything, this bull run could be so amazing. I think we're just getting started. And not to mention as well, you take a look at the Bitcoin ETF. Again, I'm not a big fan of Bitcoin as an investment for me, but I think the ETF is positive. You also take a look at the Ethereum ETF, the number of institutional investors, the amount of enterprise adoption. I think this bull run could really be something special, but it's just a waiting game, which is why I'm still dollar cost averaging into Beam. Anytime an income, I'm acquiring, I'm holding, and I'm waiting, because I think around 6 months to 10 months from right now, Beam at the price of $1, that wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. And that's why I'm choosing Beam instead of Bitcoin, because I just like its room for growth a lot better, at least in my opinion, not financial advice. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's Willie the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.